6:30.
Are you ready? Okay. All right. Jennifer won't be here this evening, so AJ, have you looked at the minutes from the July 7th?
Yes.
I need a motion.
Motion accepted.
I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we're good there. Anita, anything unusual in the claims?
We helped the community building.
Talk louder.
We gotta shut that off.
Well, I should have left it up to 77, it should quit when we be from 73.
Spring hydrant rental, it's $359. We pay that out of the property tax. Other than that, it's a different agreement in our ordinance, and it's, I think it's 33 hydrants repaired, and then we start the next phase, so go on.
Yeah.
And that's like annual thing, that's what they got behind.
That's what we got behind on for many years and had to repay. That's what I was. Okay, so I'll make the motion on the claims.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. We're good there. Now comes the good part. We have an ordinance and a resolution. And this is for industrial wastewater and also the ordinance's installation and connections of sewers. So they're sort of lengthy, aren't they?
A little bit. It's not like War and Peace.
Is it not? Okay.
And it's really gripping at times.
Why don't you help us try to comprehend what we're looking at here?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the resolution 2025-05 is, some of you will maybe recall some of it because it's similar to what we had put together, like a year ago, wasn't it about a year ago? Maybe 9 months ago, I don't know. Yeah, and we got the language approved by item. And then I think the way it turned out, this would kind of be rolled up with ordinance 2025-04, which also deals with the chemical part of it, of the wastewater treatment, industrial pre-treatment program. So they kind of are in tandem with each other, but I'll read the first one, and I'm required to read, or someone's required to read it, because even though it's very similar, it looks like, I don't know what changes Commonwealth has made to it, if any, but it initially was an ordinance, and now it's just a resolution to be rolled up with the other one. So I'll start. It's a resolution of the town of Campbellsburg to establish procedures for responding to industrial pre-treatment violations. And that's what the purpose is. And the statutory authority is the CFR Title 40, Chapter I, Subchapter N, Part 403.8, F5. And there was an Exhibit A to this that is not included, and probably should be, to this, which has that excerpt from the CFR, and part 3C6 of the NPDES permit, which is also an exhibit, which should be also included with this. So we'll need to pull those together. I think I have had those in a past draft. Does that ring a bell, Anita? Yeah. Okay, so we'll have to make sure those get rolled up into this.
It's not page 2 and page 8 like it says?
I see, well, Exhibit A.
Yeah.
Pages 2 and 8.
Yeah.
And then Exhibit B is a part of the NPDES permit that was issued to us by item. quite a while back. Okay, town code sections effective, none. This is a new resolution. Legislative findings, the town of Campbellsburg desires to address violations by industrial customers with pretreatment systems that discharge into Campbellsburg wastewater treatment works. An enforcement response plan, that's our ERP, which generally follows the Indiana non-delegated pretreatment program model enforcement response plan guidance dated September 10th, 2009 is included in this resolution. Section 5, the resolution includes an ERP which provides protocol for responding to industrial pretreatment violations consistently and systematically. It notifies industries of how the town of Campbellsburg will respond to pretreatment violations. This ERP describes how the POTW will investigate instances of noncompliance. It describes the types of escalated enforcement actions of the POTW will take in response to all anticipated types of industrial user violations. It identifies by title the officials responsible for each type of action and reflects the POTW's primary responsibility to enforce all applicable pretreatment requirements and standards. Okay, Section 1, Industrial Waste Pretreatment Program Enforcement Response Plan, or ERP. All entities to start discharging non-domestic wastewater into the Campbellsburg Wastewater Treatment Works are subject to the provisions of the ERP. The ERP does not preclude the CWTW from taking any or all or any combination of actions against a non-compliant industrial user. Okay, we've made it past page 1. Abbreviations. AO is administrative order. EPA is Environmental Protection Agency. ERG is Enforcement Response Guide. ERP is Enforcement Response Plan. IDEM is the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. IU is the Industrial User. IPC is the Industrial Pretreatment Coordinator. NOV is Notice of a Violation. POTW is a publicly owned treatment works. And this is, we just have one industrial pretreatment, and that's MPP. So this is required because we have one industry here. Okay, Section C, Personnel Responsibilities. The Industrial Pretreatment Coordinator, the IPC, is responsible for the day-to-day implementation and enforcement of the Industrial Pretreatment Program. Potential enforcement responses carried out by the IPC are as follows: informal notices, both verbal and written, notices of violation, referrals to the state or EPA for criminal action. The superintendent has a responsibility to monitor the IPC's actions and to initiate these additional enforcement actions at the recommendation of the IPC. Administrative orders, compliance schedule, show cause hearings, termination of service, administrative fines, cost recovery, referrals to the city attorney for judicial action, and referrals to the state or EPA for criminal action. POTW attorney. The attorney will provide legal consultation as requested by the superintendent on compliance schedules, administrative fines, administrative orders, and cost recovery, and will take the lead on all referrals for judicial action and POTW initiated criminal investigations. Okay, we're on page 3. Section D, enforcement actions. The types of enforcement actions that may be undertaken by the POTW include the following: informal notice, which may be either a documented phone call, a written warning, or a meeting notifying the, that looks like that's a typo there. IU, I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. Anyway, of minor incidences.
Industrial user.
Okay, thank you. Incidences that have occurred and that need to be corrected. Repeat performance of the same incidents or escalation of the incidents will result in escalated enforcement action. Notice of violation. Excuse me. A notice of violation is the initial formal enforcement action for a violation. The certified letter notifies the IU signatory authority of the violation and requires the following: immediate corrective action or steps being taken to correct the problem, increased sampling of the parameter in violation within 30 days. That's another typo. Written response within 10 business days of receipt of the notice of violation. Administrative fines. An administrative fine is a punitive monetary charge assessed by the city or town rather than a court. The penalty authority must be authorized in the POTW's SUO. The purpose of the fine is to recover the economic benefit of noncompliance and to deter future violations. When assessing an administrative fine, the following factors are considered: the type and severity of the violation, the number of violations cited, the duration of noncompliance, the impact of the violation on the receiving water, sludge quality, and POTW operation, whether the violation threatened public health, the economic benefit or savings the industrial user gained from the noncompliance, the compliance history of the industrial user, and whether the industrial user is making a good faith effort to comply. Administrative order is notification to the IU to undertake or to cease specified activity by a specified deadline. It is the first formal response to significant noncompliance unless factors necessitate escalated enforcement actions. It may contain compliance schedules, administrative fines, termination of service, and show cause orders. In addition, it specifies the name of the parties involved, statement of the facts, the requirement to ensure compliance, and the enforcement associated with any future noncompliance. Compliance schedule is a formal time and management schedule contained in an enforcement order established for the noncompliant IU to achieve compliance. It is established for existing IUs to meet the categorical pretreatment standards or local standards. It contains increments of progress in the form of dates for the commencement and completion of major events leading to compliance. In addition, all compliance schedules shall contain the following: monitoring requirements with the location for monitoring, how the data will be used for evaluating compliance, enforcement associated with noncompliance, and a closure date after which IU will be considered either noncompliant with the established compliance schedule or evaluated for compliance. Show cause hearing is when the IU and the POTW meet to discuss the cause and effect of the violation, as well as the enforcement action the IU will be subjected to. The IU may present its case as to why the violation occurred and why further enforcement should not be applied. Corrective actions to be undertaken by the IU can also be a part of this meeting. Termination of services. Termination of service is the revocation of an IU's privilege to discharge the non-domestic wastewater into the sewer system. Termination of service is used when the discharge from an industrial user presents imminent endangerment to the health or welfare of persons or the environment, or threatens to interfere with the POTW's operations, or as an escalating enforcement action to the significant violation when a non-compliant industrial user fails to respond adequately to previous enforcement actions. Termination of service may be accomplished by physical severance of the IU's connection to the collection system, issuance of an AO, cease and desist order, which compels the IU to immediately terminate its discharge, revocation of the IU's discharge permit, or a court ruling. Cost recovery. In addition to administrative fines imposed by the superintendent, the IU shall be responsible for paying the following, but not limited to: costs incurred by the city or town for the IU's failure to comply, including cost of mileage and labor incurred in detecting and correcting the violation, laboratory analysis costs associated with detecting and correcting the violation, additional treatment costs caused by the violation or associated with detecting and correcting the violation, cost of any additional equipment acquired or expended by the city or town for detecting or correcting the violation, repair and or replacement of any part of the sewerage system damaged by the violation, any liability, damages, fines, or penalties incurred by the city or town as a result of the violation, any and all expenses of outside professionals to include but not limited to engineers, scientists, and or legal counsel, and other costs associated with the detection and correction of violations. Judicial action will be taken when it is deemed necessary to force the IU to correct the violation and to comply with the permit. Judicial action may consist of civil prosecution, criminal prosecution, or an action for injunction at the discretion of the POTW and its counsel. As an alternative to judicial action, the POTW and IU may agree to a voluntary zero discharge of industrial waste by the IU pending correction of the violation. Referral to the EPA or to the state. Where a POTW does not rely on criminal prosecution for its enforcement authority, referral to the state or EPA may be made. For violations that may warrant criminal prosecution, the POTW will refer the case to EPA or the state for further action. Circumstances that trigger EPA or state referrals include, but are not limited to, evidence of willfulness, evidence of negligence, and or bad faith shown by the industrial user. Note, Violations that threaten health, property, or environmental quality are considered emergencies and will receive immediate responses, such as halting the discharge or terminating the service. We've made it to page 6. Timeframes for enforcement responses. All violations will be identified and documented within 5 days of receiving compliance information. Initial enforcement responses, informal or formal, will occur within 15 days of identifying a violation. Follow-up actions for continuing or recurring violations will be taken within 60 days of the initial enforcement response. Violations which threaten health, property, or environmental quality are considered emergencies and will receive immediate response, such as halting the discharge or terminating the service. All violations meeting the criteria for significant noncompliance will be addressed through formal enforcement action within 30 days of the identification of the significant noncompliance. Section F, ERP Response Guide and Tables. The Enforcement Response Guide designates several enforcement options for each type or pattern of noncompliance. The intent of the ERG is to provide direction for appropriate enforcement response and to ensure consistent enforcement for similar violations and circumstances. Factors that will be evaluated when determining the appropriate response are as follows: good faith of the IU, compliance history of the IU, previous success of any prior enforcement actions against the IU, such as if historically notices of violations have not been effective in returning the user to compliance in a reasonable period of time, an administrative order would be a more appropriate response. Violations effect on the environment and or public health, and violations effect on the POTW. Any violation that results in significant noncompliance will be addressed through formal enforcement action, regardless of the enforcement response otherwise required by the Enforcement Response Guide. The minimum level of enforcement used to address significant noncompliance is an administrative order. The following categories of SNC of IU shall be subject to enforcement actions initiated by the town of Campbellsburg, Indiana. Chronic violations of wastewater discharge limits, defined as those in which 66% or more of all of the measurements taken during a 6-month period exceed by any magnitude the daily maximum limit or the average limit for the same pollutant parameter. Technical review criteria violations, defined as those in which 33% or more of all of the measurements for each pollutant parameter taken during a 6-month period equal or exceed the product of the daily maximum limit or the average limit multiplied by the applicable TRC. And TRC equals 1 4/10 for biochemical oxygen demand, total suspended solids, fats, oils, and grease, and 1 2/10 for all other pollutants except pH. Any other violation of a pretreatment effluent limit, daily maximum or longer term average, that the POTW determines has caused, alone or in combination with other discharges, interference or pass-through, including endangering the health of POTW personnel or the general public. Any discharge of a pollutant that has caused imminent endangerment to human health, welfare, or to the environment, or has resulted in the POTW's exercise of its emergency authority under 327 Indiana Administrative Code 5-19-3 IG to halt or prevent such a discharge. Failure to meet within 90 days after the scheduled date, a compliance schedule milestone contained in a local control mechanism or an administrative order for starting construction, completing construction, or attaining final compliance. Failure to provide within 30 days after the due date required reports such as baseline monitoring reports, 90-day compliance reports, periodic self-monitoring reports, and reports on compliance with compliance schedules. Failure to accurately report noncompliance, and any other violation or group of violations that the POTW determines will adversely affect the operation or implementation of the approved POTW pretreatment program. Well, I've lost one. Oh, is she? Well, how nice. That's going to be appreciated. I thought maybe she had enough. Escalating enforcement response. Escalating enforcement response will be used for recurring violations and failure to achieve compliance subsequent to informal or formal enforcement. A recurring violation is one in which the same type of violation occurs on a consecutive reporting period. The violation occurs seasonally or any other pattern of noncompliance is shown. violations that fall under more than one category in the, thank you, how kind of you, June, I appreciate that.
I'm joking.
If the violations that fall under more than one category in the enforcement response guide will be addressed through the more severe enforcement response. An alleged violation will be included in the more severe response. Definitions of violations. Minor sampling, monitoring, or reporting deficiencies. Includes reports and correspondence submitted up to 10 business days that are late, incomplete reports and or chain of custody, first offense, transcription error, improper sampling or analytical procedure, which is a first offense. Excuse me, late notification of violation to the POTW, that's a first offense. Failure to report any operational changes which affects the discharge flow rate but does not impact the permit, which is a first offense, or any other violation categorized as minor sampling, monitoring, or reporting deficiencies by the POTW. And major sampling, monitoring, or reporting deficiencies include reports and correspondence that are late by 10 to 30 business days, sampling point that's not accessible to the POTW, reports that are not certified, failure to report any operational changes which affect the discharge flow rate and impacts the permit, incomplete report or chain of custody information, which is a repeat offense, failure to submit all the information that leads to the determination of a category of an IU, failure to use appropriate analytical methods, according to 40 CFR 136, failure to sample for a parameter, failure to report slug load discharge, illegal discharges or spills with no damage to the POTW, unacceptable explanation for violation, improper sampling or analytical procedure, which is a repeat offense. Any other violation categories is categorized as major sampling, monitoring, or reporting deficiencies by the POTW. Critical sampling, monitoring, or reporting deficiencies. This would include reports that are greater than 30 days late, complete failure to sample, monitor, or report per the requirements found in the IU's permit, any deficiency of sampling, monitoring, or reporting procedure which places IU in SNC, failure to respond to a show cause or administrative order, illegal or unauthorized discharge that results in damage to the POTW, any violation of sampling, monitoring, or reporting procedures which directly or indirectly contributes to or is responsible for violation of the POTW's NPDES permit, any other violation categorized as critical sampling, monitoring, or reporting deficiencies by the POTW. Unauthorized discharge, which is a discharge of a pollutant, any pollutant from a location, process, source, or categorical operation that has not been previously approved, identified, or permitted. Damages to the POTW occurring when discharge from an IU causes harm to the collection system, its accessories, and wastewater treatment plant, interference with the biological operations of the plant, deterioration of sludge quality, and the POTW to violate its NPDES permit. Section H, timeframes for enforcement responses. All violations will be identified and documented within 5 days of receiving compliance information. Initial enforcement responses, informal or formal, will occur within 15 days of identifying a violation. Follow-up actions for continuing or recurring violations will be taken within 60 days of the initial enforcement response. Violations which threaten health, property, or environmental quality are considered emergencies and will receive immediate response, such as halting the discharge or terminating service. All violations meeting the criteria for significant noncompliance will be addressed through formal enforcement action within 30 days of the identification of SNC. Note, the ERP response guide tables are not all-encompassing, and any violation not listed below will be handled in a case-by-case response. Okay, so we've got different categories of compliance, and which there are 3 significant non-compliance, major non-compliance, and let's see, we've got significant non-compliance listed twice, so we'll have to go back and find out what that.
Minor.
What's that? Significant
I
non-compliance.
said major and non-minor.
Is it minor?
Yeah.
maybe that should have been insignificant non-compliance. I'll have to go back and look at the language.
It's
But are you seeing it someplace else?
page 12.
Yeah, major non-compliance versus minor non-compliance.
Okay, all right.
Are the two, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so significant non-compliance, basically, these are in the tables that follow, they're highlighted in red. And several examples are given here. And some of them have been read before, so I won't repeat that. And then, let's see, slug load discharge that's frequent, meaning more than 1 calendar year with no damage to the CWTW. Any slug load discharge instance with CWTW damage or direct cause for violation of the permit, an unauthorized non-permitted discharge with CWTW damage or direct cause for violation of the permit, SNC, or failure to submit a permit application after a repeat incident, any instance of an illegal RCRA hazardous waste discharge, any instance of a critical sampling, monitoring, or reporting deficiency, any instance of falsification of sampling, monitoring, or reporting requirements, any instance of tampering with monitoring equipment, any missed milestone date that will disrupt compliance schedule timeline in the absence of a valid cause for the violation, a missed final date of achieving compliance for which the schedule was established, the parameter was in violation at least once, and sampling or monitoring within 30 days of the milestone final date yielded more than one violation for the compliance schedule parameter. A missed final date of achieving compliance for which the schedule was established where the sampling or monitoring after 30 days and before the closure date yielded more than one violation for the compliance schedule parameter. Failure to meet reporting requirements, did not submit the report, and did not complete the milestone, in any instance of reporting false information. Instances of major non-compliance I'm gonna go through those in just a minute, but they're highlighted in orange in the table, and they include required actions in addition to issuance of a notice of violation or an informal notice. So that would be exceedance of discharge limits that are frequent, a repeat offense, non-significant, exceeding 1 quarter or 4 in a calendar year, waste stream dilution in lieu of treatment as described in the SUO for industrial waste discharge that is frequent, a repeat offense, non-significant, exceeding 1 per quarter or 4 in a calendar year, unauthorized non-permitted discharge that's a repeat instance after receiving a notice of violation with no damage to the CWTW, minor sampling, monitoring, or reporting deficiencies, even if the deficiencies are isolated or infrequent, minor sampling, monitoring, or reporting deficiencies where the deficiencies are frequent, or there is a repeat offense exceeding 1 per quarter or 4 in a calendar year, failure to report changed discharge where there is an impact to the permit, any instance of a failure to obtain a permit before discharge, any instance of a failure to install monitoring equipment, including a monitoring manhole is required, entry to the facility is denied or consent withdrawn, copies of records are denied, a repeat offense of inadequate record keeping, any instance of a failure to properly operate and maintain pretreatment facility, a missed milestone date that will disrupt compliance schedule timeline, even if the violation is for valid cause, missed final date of achieving compliance for which the schedule was established and the parameter was in violation at least once, and the violation after milestone final date was due to strike, act of God, national crises, etc. And then we have minor non-compliance, and those are highlighted in like a light green or mint color in the table. And that would include exceedance of discharge limits that are isolated and non-significant, waste stream dilution in lieu of treatment as described in the SUO for industrial waste discharge that is isolated, non-significant, slug load discharge that is isolated with no damage to the CWTW, any instance of unauthorized non-permitted discharge with no damage to the CWTW, minor sampling, monitoring, or reporting deficiencies that are isolated or infrequent, minor sampling, monitoring, or reporting deficiencies that are frequent, repeat offense, and non-significant exceeding 1 per quarter, or 4 in a calendar year. Any instance of a failure to report change discharge where there is no impact on the permit. Any instance of a failure to inform the CWTW of the ownership change. Inadequate record keeping such as incomplete or missing records. a missed milestone date that will not cause other milestone dates on compliance schedule, no valid cause for missing the deadline, failure to meet reporting requirements such as not submitting a report but did complete a milestone. So following this narrative description is the same information in a tabular form that's much easier to digest and comprehend. And it's, let's see, the first one are the major ones, I think. Let's see.
Yeah.
And I just have a black and white copy, but I think I've passed around copies before at the table that were in color. And then the next one is orange, and then the least restrictive other violations would be in the light green color. And they list what the violation is, the nature or frequency, the status, whether it's a major or minor non-compliance, and then the range of responses that are appropriate for that type of action. So if there's anything that's not in the table or in the ordinance, it's dealt with on a case-by-case basis. And the very last page of this is the signature page.
Good job, Lisa.
Thank you. I know this wasn't fun.
Yeah, you wanna take action on this? You wanna take action on this now?
I need a motion.
Motion.
Okay, I'll second the resolution, and it's number 2025-05. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, all right, cool.
Now, we read the ordinance 2025-04 SUO April 7th for the first time. And then there's some corrections. So can we do this on second reading?
I think so. You guys ready?
Yep.
Okay, this one's a little bit lengthier, and it's not nearly as fun, but it's got some interesting points in it.
Done read it once, can you just kind of do highlights of it?
Well, I'll take that under advice. We have to comply. I'll try to go a little faster.
You don't have to go back.
Okay, ordinance number 2025-04, an ordinance of the town council of the town of Campbellsburg, Indiana, amending ordinance number 91-08 regarding use of the town of Campbellsburg's publicly owned treatment works, connection to and use of public and private sewers and drains, the installation and connection of building sewers and industrial pretreatment requirements. Okay. Then it says, be it ordained by the town council of the town of Campbellsburg, Indiana. So we have a definition section that goes through ammonia, nitrogen, with all the chemical abbreviations of that, biochemical oxygen demand, which is commonly called BODs. You've probably heard of that before. Building drain, which is the part of the lowest horizontal piping of a drainage system, which receives the discharge from soil waste and other drainage pipes inside the walls of a building and conveys it to the building sewer beginning 3 feet outside the building wall. The building sewer, which is the extension from the building drain to the public sewer or other place of disposal, which is also called the house connection. There's a definition for bypass, which is the intentional diversion of a waste stream from any portion of a treatment facility. Carbonaceous biochemical oxygen demand, which is CBOD. Categorical
There'll be a test later.
Pardon me?
There'll be a test later, right?
What did you say?
I'm sorry, I was just being.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, no, I just trying to
Did I
pick up them.
Did I
yeah.
mispronounce
No,
something?
no.
Okay.
I'm telling these guys there'll be a test. Yeah, so
taking
pay
notes.
attention. Yeah, I know you are.
Oh, there'll be a test,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Yeah, there'll be a test. I'm sorry.
You're making me
I missed
cry.
I messed you up a little bit.
No,
All
this
right.
this will be transcribed. That's my,
Yeah,
my
yeah,
test.
Categorical industrial users defined, a categorical pre-treatment standard or categorical standard, chemical oxygen demand, that's probably one you all heard of before, that's COD. Compatible pollutant, that's your total suspended solids, biochemical oxygen demand, ammonia, nitrogen, plus additional pollutants if the treatment works was designed to treat such pollutants and in fact does remove such pollutants to a substantial degree. And it gives some examples. Composite sample, which is a 24-hour composite sample that consists of at least 6 individual flow proportion samples of wastewater taken by the grab sample method over equal time intervals during the period of operator attendance or by an automatic sampler, and which are combined prior to analysis. A flow proportion composite sample shall be obtained by, and it talks about recording the discharge flow rate, adding together the flow rates to the total flow value, dividing the discharge flow rate of each individual sampling time by the total flow to determine its percentage of the total flow, and then multiplying the volume of the total composite sample by each individual sample's percentage to determine the volume of that individual sample. The control authority is the Commissioner of the Indiana Department of Environmental Management in the town of Campbellsburg. There's a definition for the daily maximum, which is the maximum allowable discharge for any one calendar day. And an easement is defined in here. It's a legal right for specific use of land owned by others. Environmental Protection Agency is defined. I think we've all heard of that before. Now, I didn't know this one, E. coli. Does anybody know what the E stands for? It's Escherichia. Okay, all right, that could be a good test question. Excessive strength surcharge, fat, oil, and grease is defined, garbage, grab sample is defined, hazardous waste, indirect discharger, industrial user, industrial waste permit, industrial waste, infiltration and inflow. And, you know, we had some testing done a while back for that to see if we were discharging stormwater into the waste treatment system about a year or so ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's important to reduce or eliminate that. Inflow is the water discharge into a sewer system, including building drains and sewers from such sources as but not limited to roof leaders, cellars, yard and area drains and foundation drains, including cooling water discharges, drains from springs and swampy areas, manhole covers, cross connections from storm sewers and combined sewers, catch basins, storm sewers, surface runoff, street wash waters, or drainage. Inflow does not include and is distinguished from infiltration. Inspectors is defined here. Interference is defined, which is anything that inhibits or disrupts the treatment processes and causes a violation. Local limit is defined in here. Monthly average limit. These are defined in here as the sum of daily discharges and the highest allowable average of daily discharges over a calendar month. Medical waste is defined as isolation waste, infectious agents, human blood and blood products, pathological waste, sharps, body parts, contaminated bedding, surgical waste, potentially contaminated laboratory waste, and dialysis waste. And of course, we know MPP is not involved in any business that has that as a product, waste product. Natural outlet is any non-constructed outlet into a water course, pond, ditch, lake, or other body of surface or groundwater. We've got a non-contact cooling water definition for water that does not come into direct contact with any raw material, intermediate product, waste product, or finished product. Non-significant categorical industrial user, and that's one that never discharges more than 100 gallons per day of total categorical wastewater. And a few other criteria here. Normal domestic sewage is just wastewater or sewage having an average daily concentration of BOD not more than 250 milligrams per liter, and total suspended solids not more than 300 milligrams per liter. NPDES permit is defined in here, and you probably heard of that before, the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. Pass-through is defined, pH, person, pollutant is defined, pre-treatment is defined. Pre-treatment requirements are defined as well as standards. Private sewer is defined as not located on a public street, alley, or easement dedicated to the town. Prohibited discharge standards or prohibited discharges is defined. Properly shredded garbage is defined. Public sewer is defined in here, as well as collector sewer, force main, interceptor sewer, and pumping station. Publicly owned treatment works is POTW, as we know. Pumping station, where wastewater is pumped to a higher level, and sanitary sewer carries sanitary and industrial waste into which storm, surface, and groundwaters are not intentionally admitted. Septic tank waste is in holding tanks such as vessels, chemical toilets, campers, trailers, and septic tanks. Sewage is defined broadly. Sewage works is defined as well as sewer. The word shall is defined as the act referred to as mandatory. So you must do something that says shall do something. Significant industrial user is defined, and those are industrial users that are subject to categorical pre-treatment standards. Industrial user that has certain amount of discharge, that's also defined. Significant noncompliance is defined, and we talked about that a little bit in our resolution. Technical review criteria is in here as a definition, as well as other violations of pretreatment effluent limit, discharges of a pollutant that's caused endangerment to the public, failure to meet within 90 days after a scheduled data compliance schedule milestone, failure to provide within 30 days after the due date required reports such as baseline monitoring, compliance reports, etc., failure to accurately report noncompliance, and any other violation or group of violations that the control authority determines will adversely affect the operation of the local pretreatment program. Sludge is defined in here as solid, semi-solid, or liquid waste that's generated. There's slug load or slug, which is a discharge at a flow rate or concentration which could cause a violation of the prohibited discharge standards. Standard industrial classification, that's the SIC code. Standard methods are just laboratory procedures set forth with CFR Part 136, Title 40. Storm sewer is designed, which is sewer that's designed to carry only storm water but excludes other liquid and water carried waste. And then storm water is defined as water resulting from rain, melting, or melted snow, hail, or sleet. Superintendent's defined. Total suspended solids is defined. Town, unpolluted water, upset and volatile organic matter is defined, as well as wastewater treatment plant, water course, and waters of the state. So it's pretty comprehensive list of definitions in here. And that brings us to page 9 and 10, where we get into section 2 for general waste and water discharge regulations. So section A says no user shall introduce or cause to be introduced into the POTW any pollutant or wastewater that could pass through or cause interference with the operation of the performance of the POTW. These general prohibitions apply to all users of the POTW, whether or not they are subject to categorical pretreatment standards or any other national, state, or local pretreatment standards or requirements. Section B, it shall be unlawful for any person to place, deposit, or permit to be deposited in any unsanitary manner on public or private property with the town or in any area under the jurisdiction of said town, any human or animal excrement, garbage, or other objectionable waste. No person shall discharge or cause to be discharged to any sanitary sewer, either directly or indirectly. Storm waters, surface water, groundwater, roof runoff, subsurface drainage, cooling water, unpolluted water, or unpolluted industrial process water. And the town shall require the removal of unpolluted waters from any wastewater collection or treatment facility. And that was section C. Section D states storm water, surface water, groundwater, roof runoff, subsurface drainage, cooling water, unpolluted water, or unpolluted industrial process water may be admitted to storm sewers which have adequate capacity for their accommodation. No person shall use such sewers, however, without the specific permission of the town. No new connection shall be made to any sanitary or storm sewer unless there is a capacity available in all downstream sewers, lift stations, force mains, and the sewage treatment plant, including capacity for BOD5 and total suspended solids. Section E, no person shall place, deposit, or permit to be deposited in any unsanitary manner on public or private property within the jurisdiction of the town any wastewater or polluted waters except where a suitable treatment has been provided in accordance with the provisions of this chapter in the NPDES permit. Section F, no person shall discharge or cause to be discharged to any natural outlet, any wastewater or other polluted waters except where suitable treatment has been provided in accordance with provisions of this chapter in the NPDES permit. Section G, except as hereinafter provided, it shall be unlawful to construct or maintain privy, combined sewer, septic tank, or other facility intended or used for the disposal of sewage. Section H, the owner of all homes, buildings, or properties used for human occupancy, employment, recreation, or other purposes, probably that should be situated with the town, and abutting on any street, alley, or right-of-way in which there is now located a public sanitary sewer of the town, is hereby required at his or her expense to install suitable toilet facilities therein and connect such facilities directly with the proper public sewer in accordance with the provisions of this chapter within 90 days after date of official notice to do so, provided that said public sewer is within 300 feet of the property line. Section 3, we're now on page 11. Private sewage disposal systems. Section A, where a public sanitary sewer is not available, the building sewer shall be connected to a private sewage disposal system complying with the provisions of this article. B, before commencement of construction of a private sewage disposal system, the owner shall first obtain a written permit signed by the town. C, a permit for a private sewage disposal system shall not become effective until the installation is completed to the satisfaction of the superintendent. He shall be allowed to inspect the works at any stage of construction. In any event, the applicant for the permit shall notify the superintendent when the work is ready for final inspection before any underground portions are covered. The inspection shall be made within 24 hours of the receipt of notice by the superintendent. D, the type, capacities, location, and layout of a private sewage disposal system shall comply with all recommendations of the county health department and/or state board of health. No septic tank or cesspool shall be permitted to discharge to any natural outlet. E, at such time as a public sewer becomes available to a property served by a private sewage disposal system, a direct connection shall be made to the public sewer in compliance with this ordinance, and any septic tanks, cesspools, and similar private sewage disposal facilities shall be abandoned and filled with suitable material. The owner shall operate and maintain the private sewage disposal facilities in a sanitary manner at all times at no expense to the town. G, when a public sewer becomes available, the building sewer shall be connected to said sewer within 60 days, and the private sewage disposal system shall be cleaned of sludge and filled with clean, banned, run gravel or dirt. H, no statement contained in this article shall be construed to interfere with any additional requirements that may be imposed by the county health department or state board of health. Section 4 addresses connection to the public sewer. Excuse me. No unauthorized person shall uncover, make any connections with or opening into, alter or disturb any public sewer or appurtenance thereof without first obtaining a written permit from the clerk treasurer, which shall also be signed and approved by the superintendent. B, there shall be 2 classes of building sewer permits. A, for residential and commercial service, and B, for service to establishments producing industrial waste. In either case, the owner of his or her agent shall make application on a special form furnished by the town. The permit application shall be supplemented by any plans, specifications, or other information considered pertinent in the judgment of the inspector. A $15 permit inspection fee for a residential or commercial building sewer permit and a $25 permit for an industrial building sewer permit shall be paid to the clerk treasurer at the time the application is filed. It's a bargain.
Yeah.
All costs and expenses incident to the installation and connection of the building sewer shall be borne by the owner. The owner shall indemnify the town from any loss or damage that may directly or indirectly be occasioned by the installation of the building sewer. D, a separate and independent building sewer shall be provided for every building, except where one building stands at the rear of another on an interior lot and no private sewer is available or can be constructed to the rear building through an adjoining alley, courtyard, or driveway. The building sewer from the front building may be extended to the rear building and the whole considered as one building sewer. E, old building sewers may be used in connection with new buildings only when they are found on examination test by the said inspector to meet all requirements of this ordinance. F, the size, slope, alignment, materials of construction of a building sewer, and the methods to be used in excavating, placing the pipe, jointing, testing, and backfilling of the trench shall all conform to the requirements of the building and plumbing code or other applicable rules and regulations of the town. In the absence of code provisions or an amplification thereof, The materials and procedures set forth in appropriate specifications of the ASTM and WEF Manual of Practice number 9 shall apply. G, whenever possible, the building sewer shall be brought to the building at an elevation below the basement floor. In all buildings in which any building drain is too low to permit gravity flow to the public sewer, sanitary sewage carried by such building drain shall be lifted by an approved means and discharged to the building sewer. H, no person shall make connection of roof downspouts, exterior foundation drains, areaway drains, or other sources of surface runoff or groundwater to a building sewer or building drain, which in turn is connected directly or indirectly to a public sanitary sewer. That should probably be highlighted. It's very important. I, the connection of the building sewer into the public sewer shall conform to the requirements of the building and plumbing code or other applicable rules and regulations of the town or the procedures set forth in appropriate specifications of the ASTM and the WEF Manual of Practice number 9. All such connections shall be made gas tight and watertight. Any deviation from the prescribed procedures and materials must be approved by the superintendent before installations. J, the applicant for the building sewer permit shall notify the said inspector when the building sewer is ready for inspection and connection to the public sewer. The connection and testing shall be made under the supervision of the said inspector or his representative. The applicant shall provide access to all structures and areas of structures to the inspector for the purpose of establishing compliance with this ordinance. K, all excavations for building sewer installation shall be adequately guarded with barricades and lights so as to protect the public from hazard. Streets, sidewalks, parkways, and other public property disturbed in the course of the work shall be restored in a manner satisfactory to said town. Section 5 deals with discharge of certain waters or wastes that are prohibited. Section A discusses specific prohibitions. So no user shall introduce or cause to be introduced into the POTW the following pollutant substances or wastewater which could pass through and interfere with the operation or performance of the POTW. Such as anything that would create a fire or explosive hazard, including but not limited to waste streams with a closed cup flash point of less than 140 degrees Fahrenheit, using some test methods specified in 40 CFR 261.21. Wastewater having a pH less than 5.0 or more than 10, or otherwise causing corrosive structural damage to the POTW or equipment. Solid or viscous pollutants in an amount that would cause obstruction to the flow in the sewer or interference with the operation of the POTW. Pollutants including oxygen-demanding pollutants, BOD, etc., released in a discharge at flow rate and or pollutant concentration, which either singly or by interaction with other pollutants would cause interference with the POTW. Ammonia in a discharge at a flow rate and or pollutant concentration, which either singly or by interaction with other pollutants will cause interference with the POTW. Wastewater having a temperature greater than 150 degrees Fahrenheit, or which will inhibit biological activity in the treatment plant, resulting in interference or damage to the POTW, but in no case wastewater that causes the temperature at the introduction into the treatment plant to exceed 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Petroleum oil, non-biodegradable cutting oil, or products of mineral oil origin in amounts that could cause interference or pass-through. Pollutants which result in the presence of toxic gases, vapors, or fumes within the POTW in a quantity that may cause acute worker health and safety problems. Truck or hauled pollutants, noxious for I can never pronounce that, malodorous liquids, gases, solids, or other wastewater which either singly or by interaction with other wastes are sufficient to create a public nuisance or a hazard to life or to prevent entry into the sewers for maintenance or repair. Wastewater which imparts color which cannot be removed by the treatment process, such as but not limited to dye, waste, and vegetable tanning solutions which consequently impart color to the treatment plant's effluent, thereby violating the town's NPDES permit. Wastewater containing any radioactive waste or isotopes except in compliance with applicable state or federal regulations. Stormwater, surface water, groundwater, artesian well water, roof runoff, subsurface draining, swimming pool drainage, condensate, deionized water, non-contact cooling water, and unpolluted wastewater unless specifically authorized by the wastewater superintendent. Sludges, screenings, or other residues from the pretreatment of industrial waste, medical waste, except as specifically authorized by the wastewater superintendent in an individual wastewater discharge permit. Wastewater causing alone or in conjunction with other sources the treatment plant's effluent to fail a toxicity test. Detergents, surface active agents, or other substances that might cause excessive foaming in the POTW. Fats, oils, or greases of animal or vegetable origin, polar, in concentrations greater than 200 milligrams per liter. Fats, oils, or greases of mineral or petroleum origin, non-polar, in concentrations greater than 100 milligrams per liter. And wastewater causing 2 readings on an explosion hazard meeting at the point of discharge into the POTW, or at any point in the POTW of more than 10%. The town is authorized to establish local limits pursuant to 40 CFR 403.5 C and D, such that the following are limited. A pollutant contributed by an industrial user that has caused or is likely to cause interference or pass through at the receiving POTW, or the occurrence of the contributed pollutant's effect on the POTW. The town has the legal authority to accept or deny any new or increased discharges from an indirect discharger, and the town has the legal authority to immediately halt or prevent any discharge of pollutants to the POTW which reasonably appears to present an imminent endangerment to the health or welfare of the public, the environment, and or which threatens to interfere with the operation of the POTW. And the town has the legal authority to require compliance with all applicable pretreatment standards and requirements by indirect dischargers. Section 6 deals with pretreatment facilities, and users must provide wastewater treatment as necessary to comply with this chapter of the prohibitions set out in this ordinance, as well as item and EPA pretreatment regulations within the time limitations specified by the superintendent. Any facilities necessary for compliance shall be provided, operated, and maintained at the user's expense. Section 7 addresses plans for pretreatment facilities and specifications and any other pertinent information relating to pretreatment or control facilities shall be submitted for approval of the control authority, and no construction of such facilities shall be commenced until written approval is granted. Where such facilities are provided, they shall be continuously maintained in satisfactory and effective operating order by the owner at the owner's expense, and shall be subject to periodic inspection by the town to determine that such facilities are being operated in conformance with applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations. Whenever deemed necessary, the superintendent may require users to restrict their discharge during peak flow periods, designate that certain wastewater be discharged only into specific sewers, relocate and or consolidate points of discharge, separate sewage waste streams from industrial waste streams, and such other conditions as may be necessary to protect the POTW and determine the user's compliance with the requirements of this ordinance. B, the superintendent may require any person discharging into the POTW to install and maintain on their property and at their expense a suitable storage and flow control facility to ensure equalization of flow. C, users with the potential to discharge flammable substances may be required to install and maintain an improved combustible gas detection meter. Section 8, the town may require users of the pretreatment works other than residential users to supply pertinent information on wastewater flows and characteristics. Such measurements, tests, and analysis shall be made at the user's expense. If made by the town, an appropriate charge may be assessed to the user at the option of the town. Section 9, the strength of wastewater shall be determined for periodic establishment of charges provided via separate ordinance from samples taken at the aforementioned structure at any period of time and of such duration and in such manner as the town may elect, or at any place mutually agreed upon between the user and the town. Appropriate charges for sampling and analysis may be assessed to the user at the option of the town. The results of routine sampling analysis by the user may also be used for determination of charges after verification by the town. Section 10, grease, oil, and sand interceptors or traps shall be provided when, in the opinion of the town, they are necessary for the proper handling of liquid waste containing grease in excessive amounts, or any flammable waste, sand, and other harmful ingredients, except that such interceptors or traps will not be required for private living quarters or dwelling units. All interceptors or traps shall be of a type and capacity approved by the town and shall be located so as to be readily available and easily accessible for cleaning and inspection. They shall be constructed of impervious materials, capable of withstanding abrupt and extreme changes in temperatures, and shall be of substantial construction, be gas-tight, watertight, and equipped with easily removable covers. Where installed, all grease, oil, and sand interceptors or traps shall be maintained by the owner at his expense and continuously efficient operation at all times. We're gonna go on to section 11, which takes us over to page 17. And to let you know what kind of progress we're making. We've got about, let's see, 12 pages. I've got pages 17 through, we won't count the signature pages, so we're making progress.
Yeah. You're doing well.
A little drink of water here. Okay, the users of the treatment work shall immediately, within no more than 2 hours, notify the town of any unusual flows or wastes that are discharged accidentally or otherwise to the sewer system. Section 12, all provisions of this ordinance and limits set herein shall comply with any applicable state and or federal requirements now or projected to be in effect. Section 13, no authorized person shall maliciously, willfully, or negligently break, damage, and cover, deface, or tamper with any structure, appurtenance, or equipment which is a part of the municipal sewer works. Any person violating this provision shall be subject to immediate arrest under charge of disorderly conduct. Section 14 regards right of entry, inspection, and sampling. The superintendent, the inspector, or a duly authorized representative bearing the proper identification and credentials shall have the right to enter the premises of any user to determine whether the user is complying with all requirements of this ordinance, as well as any wastewater discharge permit or order issued hereunder, or to determine if an industrial user needs to be permitted. Users shall allow the superintendent, the inspector, or a duly authorized representative ready access to all parts of the premises for the purposes of conducting any inspections, surveillance, record review, and or monitoring which the superintendent, the inspector, or a duly authorized representative may deem necessary to determine compliance with this ordinance or any industrial wastewater pretreatment permit. B, the superintendent and other duly authorized employees of the town bearing proper credentials and the identification shall be permitted to enter all private properties through which the town holds a duly negotiated easement for the purpose of, but not limited to, inspection, observation, measurement, sampling, repair, and maintenance of any portion of the sewage works lying within said easement. All entry and subsequent work of any on said easement shall be done in full accordance with the terms of the duly negotiated easement pertaining to the private property involved. C, the superintendent may require the user to install monitoring equipment as necessary. The facility's sampling and monitoring equipment shall be maintained at all times in a safe and proper operating condition by the user at its own expense. All devices used to measure wastewater flow and quality shall be calibrated based on manufacturer specifications, or at least annually, whichever is more frequent, to ensure accuracy. D, any temporary or permanent obstruction to safe and easy access to the facility to be inspected or sampled shall be promptly removed by the user at the written or verbal request of the superintendent and shall not be replaced. The cost of clearing such access shall be borne by the user. Unreasonable delays in allowing the inspector access to the user's premises shall be a violation of this ordinance, and that was section E. F, inspection of industrial users for the purpose of verifying industry self-monitoring information will be done at such intervals as determined by the superintendent to be necessary to detect prohibited discharges. G, the town may sample and conduct inspections activities of indirect discharges when deemed necessary by the superintendent to verify, independent of information supplied by industrial users, compliance or non-compliance with applicable pretreatment standards. For scheduled surveillance, the user shall be given the option of splitting the obtained sample such that it may be analyzed by the user. H, search warrants. If the superintendent or his designee has been refused access to a building, structure, or property, or any part thereof, and if the superintendent has demonstrated probable cause to believe that there may be a violation of this ordinance or that there is a need to inspect as part of a routine inspection program of the town designed to verify compliance with this ordinance, or any permit or order issued hereunder, or to protect the overall public health, safety, and welfare of the community or the environment, Then upon application by the town attorney, a judge of a circuit or superior court of the county in which the wastewater discharge in question enters the POTW shall issue a search and or seizure warrant describing the specific location subject to the warrant. The warrant shall specify what, if anything, may be searched and or seized on the property described. Such warrant shall be served at reasonable hours by the superintendent in the company of a uniformed police officer of the town. In the event of an emergency affecting public health and safety or environmental quality, inspection shall be made without the issuance of a warrant. Section 15. Item A, any person found to be violating any provisions of this ordinance shall be served by the town with written notice stating the nature of the violation and providing a reasonable time limit for the satisfactory correction thereof. The offender shall, within the period of time stated in such notice, permanently cease all violations. B, when the wastewater superintendent finds that a person has violated or continues to violate any provision of this ordinance, an individual wastewater discharge permit or order issued hereunder, or any other pretreatment standard or requirement, the wastewater superintendent may impose a fine of no more than $2,500 per day per violation, for a first violation of no more than $7,500 per day per violation for subsequent violations in accordance with Indiana Code 36-1-3-8A 10B. Such fine shall be assessed on a per violation per day basis. In the case of monthly or other long-term average discharge limits, fines shall be assessed for each day during the period of violation. Section 16, all ordinances or parts of ordinance in conflict herewith are hereby repealed. The invalidity of any section, clause, sentence, or provision of this ordinance shall not affect the validity of any other part of this ordinance which can be given effect without such invalid part or parts. Section 17, that the rules and regulations promulgated by the town after approved by the town council shall, among other things, provide for an appeal procedure whereby a user shall have the right to appeal a decision of the administrator of the sewage system to the town council, and that any decision concerning sewage system of the town council may be appealed to a court of competent jurisdiction under the appeal procedures provided for in the Indiana Administrative Adjudication Act. Section 18, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, recordings, and publications as provided by law. Section 19, enforcement response. The types of enforcement actions that may be undertaken by the POTW include the following. And I'll just talk about these because they've been discussed in detail in the companion resolution. So informal notice is one, notice of violation, administrative fines, administrative orders, a compliance schedule, a show cause hearing, termination of services, cost recovery, judicial action, referral to the EPA or to the state. And a full description of the procedures for responding to industrial pretreatment violations are found in the enforcement response plan. This includes categories of noncompliance, a description of the types of violations included within each identified category of noncompliance, and a narrative description of each enforcement response. Section 20, the wastewater superintendent is authorized to establish local limits pursuant to 40 CFR 403.5 C and D, such that the following are limited. A pollutant contributed by an industrial user that has caused or is likely to cause interference or pass through the receiving POTW, or the recurrence of the contributed pollutant's effect on the POTW. Section 21, change conditions. The town may accept or deny any new or increased discharges from any indirect discharger. Section 22, pre-treatment charges and fees. The town may adopt reasonable fees for reimbursement of costs of setting up and operating the town's pre-treatment program, which may include fees for wastewater discharge permit applications, including the cost of processing such applications, fees for monitoring, inspection, and surveillance procedures, including the cost of collection and analyzing a user's discharge, and reviewing monitoring reports and certification standards submitted by users. C, fees for reviewing and responding to accidental discharge procedures in construction. D, fees for filing appeals. E, fees to recover administrative and legal costs associated with the enforcement activity taken by the wastewater superintendent to address the non-compliance. And F, other fees as the town may deem necessary to carry out the requirements contained herein or required by item or US EPA pretreatment requirements. These fees relate solely to the matters covered by this ordinance and are separate from all other fees, fines, and penalties chargeable by the town of Campbellsburg. Section 23, affirmative defenses to discharge violations. Upset. An upset shall constitute an affirmative defense to an action brought for noncompliance with categorical pretreatment standards if the requirements of Division B are met. And Division B states a user who wishes to establish the affirmative defenses of upset shall demonstrate through properly signed and operating logs and other relevant evidence that an upset occurred and the user can identify the cause of the upset. The facility was at the time being operated in a prudent and workmanlike manner and in compliance with applicable operation and maintenance procedures. The user has submitted the following information to the superintendent within 24 hours of becoming aware of the upset. If this information is provided orally, and a written submission must be provided within 5 days. A description of the indirect discharge and causes of noncompliance, the period of noncompliance, including exact dates and times, or if not corrected, the anticipated time that noncompliance is expected to continue, and steps being taken and or planned to reduce, eliminate, and prevent recurrence of the noncompliance. In any enforcement proceeding, the user seeking to establish the occurrence of an upset shall have the burden of proof. Users will have the opportunity for a judicial determination on any claim of upset only in an enforcement action brought for noncompliance with categorical pretreatment standards. On page 24. Users shall control production of all discharges to the extent necessary to maintain compliance with categorical pretreatment standard upon reduction, loss, or failure of its treatment facility until the facility is restored or an alternate method of treatment is provided. This requirement applies in the situation where, among other things, the primary source of power of the treatment facility is reduced, lost, or fails. Bypass. For purposes of this section, bypass means the intentional diversion of waste streams from any portion of a user's treatment facility. Severe property damage means substantial physical damage to property, damage to the treatment facilities causing them to become inoperable, or substantial and permanent loss of natural resources which can reasonably be expected to occur in the absence of a bypass. Severe property damage does not mean economic loss caused by delays in production. A user may allow any bypass to occur which does not cause pretreatment standards or requirements to be violated, but only if it also is for essential maintenance to ensure efficient operation. These bypasses are not subject to the provisions of Divisions C, D, and E of this section. If a user knows in advance of the need for a bypass, it shall submit prior notice to the superintendent at least 10 days before the date of the bypass. Or if 10 days advance notice is not possible, as many days before the date of the bypass as is practicable under the circumstances. A user shall submit oral notice to the superintendent of an unanticipated bypass that exceeds applicable pre-treatment standards within 24 hours from the time it becomes aware of the bypass. A written submission shall also be provided within 5 days of the time the user becomes aware of the bypass. The written submission shall contain a description of the bypass and its cause, the duration of the bypass, including exact dates and times, and if the bypass has not been corrected, the anticipated time it is expected to continue, and steps taken or planned to reduce, eliminate, and prevent reoccurrence of the bypass. The superintendent may waive the written report on a case-by-case basis if the oral report has been received within 24 hours. Bypass is prohibited, and the superintendent may initiate and pursue an enforcement action against a user for bypass unless bypass was unavoidable for the loss of life, personal injury, or severe property damage. There were feasible alternatives to the bypass, such as the use of auxiliary treatment facilities, retention of untreated waste, or maintenance during normal periods of equipment downtime. This condition is not satisfied if adequate backup equipment should have been installed in the exercise of reasonable engineering judgment to prevent a bypass which occurred during normal periods of equipment downtime or preventive maintenance. and the user submitted notices as required under Division C of this section. The superintendent may approve an anticipated bypass after considering its adverse effects, provided that the superintendent has determined that the bypass will meet the 3 conditions listed in Division E of this section. We got about one more page to read, and we'll take about a 10-second break. Section 24, wastewater strength reports and surcharge for excess BOD and total suspended solids. The strength of wastewater shall be determined for periodic establishment of charges provided for in this ordinance from samples taken at the aforementioned structure at any period of time and of such duration and in such manner as the town may elect, or at any place mutually agreed upon between the user and the town. Appropriate charges from the sampling analysis may be assessed to the user at the option of the town. Results of routine sampling analysis by the user may also be used for determination of charges after verification by the town. The town may require users of the POTW other than residential users to supply pertinent information on wastewater flow characteristics. Such measurements, tests, and analysis shall be made at the user's expense. If made by the town, an appropriate charge may be assessed to the user at the option of the town. Normal domestic sewage strength should not exceed a BOD of 250 milligrams per liter of fluid and total suspended solids in excess of 300 milligrams per liter of fluid. Total suspended solids levels in excess of 300 milligrams per liter daily average may be subject to a surcharge for separate ordinance. BOD in excess of 250 milligrams per liter daily average may be subject to a surcharge for separate ordinance. Additional charges for treatment of stronger than normal domestic waste shall be assessed via separate ordinance. Section 25 is the last section, I believe, and it addresses confidential information. And it says information and data on a user obtained from reports, surveys, wastewater discharge permit applications, wastewater discharge permits, monitoring programs, and the superintendent's inspection and sampling activities shall be available to the public without restriction unless the user specifically requests and is able to demonstrate to the satisfaction of the superintendent that the release of such information would divulge information processes or methods of production entitled to protection as trade secrets under applicable state law or would otherwise be exempt from disclosure pursuant to applicable law. Any such request must be asserted at the time of submission of the information or data. When requested and demonstrated by the user furnishing a report that such information should be exempt from disclosure, the portions of a report which might disclose trade secrets or secret processes shall not be made available for inspection by the public. Notwithstanding anything herein to the contrary, any such information and or data shall be made immediately available if access to such information and or data is specifically required by a state or federal statute, regulation, rule, or is ordered by a court with appropriate jurisdiction under the rules of discovery.
Great.
Now we can debate, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Are we done yet?
Yeah, that's it.
You did great.
Thank you. It wasn't the most interesting stuff. Some of it was interesting. I thought. Did you?
I think it is, I know it's way up there,
Yeah.
we don't even
But-
deal with.
But I do think we need to publish this the best that we can, you know? Like there should always be a copy of this available. Somebody wanting to know about sort all the time. We probably need to take this to NetShape and say we've had a change in our ordinance. If you guys need any clarification or anything, it's come back and debatable, right? We're just going to throw it on top of it.
I would say once it's approved. through the-
Yes, that's
through
what I'm
the
saying.
board.
Yeah, but I think that's
And
our
then
next
once it's
step.
approved to y'all, then it's good with Mary. Right.
Yeah, I'd give them a copy and send it certified mail.
That's what I
to
would
prove
do
that you did
too.
it.
Yeah, with a letter of explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that, I think that's reasonable. You know, we only have one. We
Yeah.
we don't want them to think we're trying to do something different. Really, we're not. We just want to make sure that all parties are covered. That's really all we're trying to do.
I think they
That's right,
came to
yeah.
one of the meetings when we had, the resolution language.
Did they? Okay.
Didn't somebody from MPP come to that meeting? Do you remember? It's been a while.
But they should take a good, hard review of it, you know.
Yeah.
The one thing, you know, like, you know, if they have a spill in 2 hours, they need to be contacting you.
Right.
You know, I don't know that they know that, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, Tom, you got a question?
Is this the first time we've done this?
It's not the first time we've done this, but it's the first time we've done it more appropriately.
You mean the first time it's been read? Is that your
Yeah,
question?
well, I mean, that and the reason that you're ahead this ordinance. is the-
New state regulation.
It's a state regulation. We had to upgrade it because our ordinance was
That's
very
an
vague.
upgrade, okay.
And that's really all it is. It's just a more formal upgrade
Okay.
to cover all parties. Is that a fair
Yeah,
statement?
I don't think we
Yeah.
really addressed, industrial waste before, did we?
Yeah.
Right, no, it
Yeah.
had never been an issue until
Yeah.
the state had come up with
Yeah.
new regulations here.
But I do want to convey to them, if they've got an issue, we can debate it and talk it out and amend if that's what's needed, but it's not just law after we sign it. I guess that's my point, You disagree?
Well, it is law, but if they
Well-
have questions,
But you know what I'm saying? What if it's something they can't meet?
well, then they need to have a conversation.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
At the moment, they're meeting all sample requirements.
Okay.
Because Chris actually does their samples every week
Okay.
for the factory themselves.
Yeah.
Not for the town, for the
Mhm.
factory itself, so they are in compliance.
That's what it's spelled out.
Yeah.
They have to. All right, so what's the action we need to take here?
So this is our second reading, we need a motion to approve it.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve
Second.
2025-04. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Yeah, but I would like a formal letter sent certified mail delivered. I think that's a great option, okay? And the letter just says why we needed to update our ordinance. Okay, that's really all we need. Okay. All right. Any other additional business? Is these the only two? Nina? Okay. All right. Lisa, I'll come back to you. I know you
Okay.
need to rest your voice just a second. All right. Aaron, do you have any?
Nothing major, I was hoping Joe would have showed up. I really like the new street speed limit sign on the north end of town. It catches you about the time you come into the town limits.
Okay.
Possibly if we could have more money for these signs, I wouldn't mind seeing a couple of them here on East Oak, one coming in this way, maybe one going that way. I don't know.
What's our fund look like, Nita, that we can purchase street signs?
I think Joe said he's got 3,000 left.
I don't remember what the price of them signs was.
Why don't you talk to Joe and see what you might like to do and let's,
1,300.
how much?
And the police equipment, we got $1,344 left.
Okay. Let's see what we might need. Let's see if we can either reappropriate or we have enough or whatever we might.
I do kind of like the signs because they do catch your speed limit just as soon as you come into town.
You talking about on 60?
No, on our town street here on North Sycamore.
All right. Okay.
He hasn't got the one up on West Oak just yet. I don't know what's going on there, but I do like that one there because I do see people slowing down when they pop into town there.
That's good.
Till I get by it.
Uh,
Till I get by it.
Sewer trench slows them down a bit too.
Yeah, that's.
That golf cart goes 50 miles an hour.
Other than that, everything's about normal here.
Joe's not here. So Lisa, what do you have?
Well, that's a good segue into what I was gonna talk about, the speed limit, on 60. I had sent an email to NDOT, about what it is in Pekin and Borden, and then since I sent them the email, Borden actually lowered theirs more down to 30 going through a part of their town. And then I noticed in Palmyra, theirs goes down to, I think,
It goes down to 30.
theirs is now under 30 too?
Yeah.
So by golly, they better give us some lower speed limits on 60.
Livonia's 35.
That's right, I came through there about 2 weeks ago and
They've
noticed
got
theirs
two.
too.
But
So
then $6,000 apiece, state approved,
the signs,
yes.
and they pay for that, did they have to pay for them?
Yep, town has to pay for them.
Well,
I talked to Ronnie over.
What's $6,000?
President.
That shows you how fast you're going?
Oh, yeah, just
Yeah.
like
Oh,
him.
those
Yeah.
signs, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I haven't heard back from them. I haven't checked on my email today yet, but I haven't heard back from them yet, but I did get an acknowledgement from my email, and I think maybe I'll respond to her tomorrow and say, hey, since I sent this, I noticed Borden's lowered theirs to 30. So, as low as we can get ours going through the town on 60, I think that'd be great. So we'll see. And then we had a good turnout at the ribbon cutting for Campbellsburg, Monon Trail. Really a good turnout. Yeah, Anita spoke, Anita, you spoke, didn't you? Okay, well, you were up there cutting the ribbon.
Yeah, Jenny was up there speaking.
Jenny was up there, yeah, and we had several other people speak. We had the Community Foundation come in and gave a real nice talk. And of course, Jeff Weil spoke, and then some people from DNR, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, but it was really surprising how many people showed up. And then after that, Aaron was kind enough to let a group of us go through the Masonic Lodge building again. Some had gone through it for the first time, and Jeff was one of them, because, we talked about the possibility, was there any possibility of a partnership between them and a new owner and their, what do they call that pitch grant that they're developing? They're gonna have a pitch grant. We should be getting information about that soon, where they'll have probably a first, second, third place prize. Maybe the first place prize might be $5,000 or $7,500 or something, just to help a new business get started along the trail. And then a group, most everybody that went through the Masonic Lodge went up to the Wilkins house and went through it. Several of our town residents went through it. I think Betty, you did, and Sue and June. Yeah, that's right. You were there too. So a lot of people got to walk through it. And Anita, you went through it too, didn't you? Yeah. So to see that renovation. And Aaron had mentioned something about ruts where the last shed was moved onto the property.
Yeah,
and,
it's awful.
Greg sent me an email with a
Send it back
picture
down
of
to
where he
your
had personally
Yes.
filled it in. Yeah. So that's pretty much all I had to report out on, I think.
Yes, I went over earlier today and seen where Greg, or one of his
He did it personally.
people went over there and did
Yeah.
work on the rut. Yes, they filled in the rut.
So now we can mow appropriately, right?
Get a little grassy.
It's a better.
But I need to go
Not
over there with this.
the greatest, but it's better.
I know, okay.
Finish cleaning it up,
All right,
and then we will.
all right, cool. Anything else, Lisa?
Well, I don't know if you want to talk about the possible sale of the Masonic Lodge building in the process. Anita had brought up, we talked about appraisals, and I think we talked about that offline too. Anita had mentioned that Pekin told her that they didn't have to use a commercial appraisal, they just used regular appraisers. We've got, there's a couple ladies that do that here locally, and Lori Gilstrap Day is one, and she has appraised a commercial building before, one of them, she said, as well as residential. And then Anita, I think you know somebody else.
Lori has another person that she was gonna contact,
Okay,
but we don't have a cost yet. She said she will get it later this week.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I would imagine it probably would be in the neighborhood of $450 to $500 or something like that. That's what
6 to 7.
is that what she said? Oh, really? Okay.
I think that's what they charge people.
Okay, well, that's considerably less than what a commercial appraiser
Yeah.
charges, because that's usually several
6,000 or
thousand.
7,000.
Yeah. And as far as, I think a question had come up about, well, would we have to get it appraised if we donated it? I kind of think we would have to. It's a town asset, to be defensible and fair. There really needs to be an appropriate notice to the public that you are offering it for sale if that's what you're wanting to do. And, go through the publication requirements in the code after you've gotten it appraised by 2 people. And then you can decide if you want to put a limit on it, factor in your costs, your annual costs, which Anita already has provided. And just think about, would it be good to have it developed, and what would somebody have to do? It's in a little worse shape from my perspective than I thought it would be. When Greg went through it, he went through it twice now. think he went through it with us, didn't he,
Yeah.
at the ribbon cutting?
Yeah.
You know, he has a more realistic picture of it than probably what I do. He was aware of the back wall being replaced with concrete block, so that's a good stabilization feature. The second floor is in a lot better shape than the first floor. You know, the floor's not squishy like the first floor is, so you'd be looking at a lot of, you know, structural supports in the floor probably. But it's great ceilings, great columns in there, you know, some nice architectural features. The round windows on the side are great. It needs some kind of tuck pointing or maybe some bracing or something on that front. That facade's looking a little like it needs a little TLC.
Yeah.
But, you know, it'd be a great opportunity for somebody. Put some shops in there, a little restaurant or.
So you recommending that we come up with a sale price or something?
If
Is
you
that
want,
what our next steps are?
if you would like to get it into the hands of someone that's gonna be willing to develop it, and they'd have to do that because, you know, if they didn't, they would be dinged by the unsafe building committee, right?
Right, exactly.
So they would need to go into it with their eyes open and they would have the right to get it inspected by a structural engineer or whoever they wanted to. But, you know, somebody might come in and see the value in it and have some ideas for development and investment. You could put some housing in it if you wanted to. I mean, there's just different things you could do. But
So,
it would take an investment.
yeah, but we'd need to come up with a price to advertise, right?
You'd have to,
Likely.
you'd have to say, yeah, you get your appraised values, see what they say. And then maybe you say you could maybe sell it as is and list a reserve price in their minimum bids are this amount. And then open it up for bidding. Like we did our did we do that? What building did we do that on? I'm thinking of probably the Wilkins house, maybe. We got it appraised when we bought
got
it,
it
when we
appraised,
bought
yeah.
it from, but
Got it
that was
appraised.
different. We weren't trying to sell it. We were
Now,
buying
to
it.
hash out these details, do we need to do that in an open meeting or is that an executive session?
No, I think it's an open
It's an
meeting.
open meeting?
Yeah, I think that's important to be at a public meeting. And you'll just want to get informed, get your appraisals done first, or, you know, get a resolution to go forward with this plan and then line up your appraisers and then decide whether you want the average of the two appraisals or whatever to be a minimum bid. Remember how, I know what it was, the county sold us the new city hall where Anita's office is now. And I think we probably have a copy of their proposal, request for bids or whatever however they did it. Did they have a minimum bid?
We wouldn't have to bid it. Can we just put it in the newspaper for sale?
I mean, you could do that. You could list it with a realtor if you wanted to. You can decide the method of sale you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think there's a certain amount that you have to sell it at a certain percentage of that appraisal.
Right.
You have to receive
Right.
or you can't.
Right.
It's not allowed by the state.
Mhm. And I don't know, I don't have any idea of what the appraisal would be. I always think things are worth less than what they go for, it seems.
We'll know next month.
That's right.
We will know, we're gonna go ahead and get it appraised, is that our plan?
If the appraisals are like 600-700, do you want to go ahead with that?
Might as well,
Yes.
might as well, yeah.
That'll be that much for each one.
Then if we got the appraisal, then let's put on the agenda that we determine a sale price, or at least a minimum sale price,
So.
okay?
Yeah.
Be the next
Motion to go ahead with the
But-
appraisal.
Motion.
If it's
For
within
the appraisal? Okay, I'll second that, yeah.
And then, Anita, when you talk with them, if you could ask them to advise you of how they think we could go about getting the best price for it, whether it would be a conventional listing with a realtor or some other method, what do they think would be the best for the town? Just get their opinion on the marketing technique.
I've had people inquire, is the building for
Oh,
sale?
that's good.
So there is people knowing that something is possibly going to happen, wanting to know what the building would be for sale. I said, at the moment, we do not know. Further down the street here, we can let you know.
Yeah, and when we do, decide how we're gonna do, if we're gonna market it, if we could put some information in there about the pitch grant, if they have the guidelines out for the pitch grant, maybe, applicants may want to also inquire as to a possible grant for renovation of a building along the trail. You just
Is
let
that
people
open?
know that they're,
Is
Is
that
that
open to the public?
public or non-profit?
the recipient, the grant recipients.
That's great.
Okay, well, the funding is, I think, coming from Radius.
But is it open to individuals or nonprofit?
It's my understanding it's gonna be open to people that are
Individuals.
gonna be buying, property owners or developers of business along
To
the trail.
develop.
Exactly, yeah,
Okay.
but I haven't seen any language, it's just what Jeff has told me over the phone. So I think the last time I spoke with him, they were still putting together some ideas and looking at what the different amounts would be, but they were thinking maybe a first, second, third price, but that could change, that was just ideas they were floating.
Good radio.
I think so. So Jeff will be the one that will know about that. But I think they were wanting to, move on it pretty fast, so we probably should check with them and see what the timetable is. Because that could draw in more interest if they know there's some grant money, and he said, well, the grant money could potentially be used as a down payment for the purchase of the property, so.
Okay, all right. Yeah, let's just get it aligned on the agenda to at least come up with a minimum sale price, Let's get that out of the way, okay? Yeah, and then we'll see what happens. Sound reasonable?
Yeah, it does, sounds good.
Okay, all right. All right, park and recreation.
They completed, they got two all-star teams. One all-star team, I know the 8U is gonna play at Spray Ground,
Mhm.
but I'm not sure about the second one.
So just as an overall assessment, they think they're doing well with the,
I'm not involved with it anymore.
They had over 200.
okay, so that's the
And most
consensus,
of
right? They're doing well, okay.
Most
Okay.
of
Anything else, park and rec, or is that it?
That's all.
Okay, Anita Clerk.
I don't have anything.
Oh, come on.
Gotta get ready for the budget.
There you go. Yeah, that starts in August, right? Or is it next month? August?
Starting August.
Okay. All right. AJ, do you have anything you want to bring up?
Yeah,
Okay.
the Wilkinson house,
Yeah.
the fence. Can we do anything? Cause it's 9 months past due.
Well, there is someone that's working on a fence. They've gotten a model of a section of what it would look like. And if Greg approves that, that's what will be fabricated.
Okay, cause you said possibility might be a buyer or something.
I think I had said that he thought that maybe they would just put it in the contract that if they have a buyer, that the buyer would have to install the fence.
He would be responsible.
They can put language in the sales agreement about that.
Okay.
They'd be, that's not ideal
No,
for attracting buyers, so that's why they are looking at having a fence fabricated for that
Okay.
line.
I know in the original contract it was supposed, 9 months ago, it was supposed to be out.
That's right. And then, what I think I'll do, because there's a lot of different opinions about the Wilkins house. Some people are glad it's been renovated. Some people maybe don't like it. I think I'll ask Greg if he can't put a summary sheet together of what they've invested in it and how it's benefited the town, just because it's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I knew that when you went in.
Yeah. And it's, he had to go back to the well like 3 times to get more funding to be able to get it in the shape it's in now that you all saw when you walked through. And hopefully will attract someone. I heard that the other barber house further down Sycamore sold. And then I think Greg told me that somebody vandalized it after the sale and took all the copper out. So that's a horrible thing, you know, that doesn't help us trying to sell
Sure does.
other properties in town.
Yeah, it's sort of part of the central unit to get all the coils out of it.
Yeah, I feel so bad. They were in negotiations for a long time for that, and the purchase price was a lot lower than what they had it listed for initially, and it has a lot of promise, but it needs significant repair. Yeah, and maybe some parts of it worse. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the terminals got into that down there after it got wet too.
Are the owners from out of town?
One,
Okay.
but I see that they are down there working on it.
Yeah. Yes. I saw they were mowing.
Yeah, so hopefully it'll be,
So you'll get with Greg.
Yeah.
I ain't got no voice.
Yeah, I will.
Thanks.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
All right, anything else, AJ?
No. That's anything else.
Okay.
You,
I don't have anything either, yeah.
Okay.
Let's, go to Tom. No? And you was sleeping during the reading, so you're kicked out. No, I'm just kidding, only kidding, go ahead.
I wasn't totally out, but I was close. She was resting her eyes.
That's what it was.
Well, I didn't have my afternoon. We all were.
Okay.
Did you point to me?
Yes, you're next, yes, young lady.
I really don't have anything, except I was gonna mention this. I got a call, actually a few weeks ago from Jeremy at the museum. They said the mayor had contacted him, and I hadn't even thought about this. He wants to know if we, the Betterment Committee or the community or somewhere, if we were doing anything for the 250th anniversary next year of the United States, be 250 years old. And he wants the county to do something together. So I don't know what he's thinking about, but I thought I'd go ahead and tell you, I'm assuming that you all haven't made any plans. You haven't got a birthday card out yet or anything,
No.
so. But it is nice.
But I saw pictures of like the 100 assessment, you know, the city, but
Oh,
that was
yeah.
on Campbellsburg, that's all I know. You was probably in that.
I probably was, yeah.
Just kidding.
So I'll be here for the 300.
Okay.
Anyway, I just passed that along, that they are wanting us to be included in their celebration.
Sure, that'd be good. That'd be good. Anything else?
I don't
No?
think so.
Okay. Dave?
Okay, I just got 2 or 3 things. First, I mean, they're simple. First, we're gonna have the phone disconnected in here.
You don't like paying $200 a month for all that?
That they're charging $125 a month, and that phone is used maybe twice.
I know.
So anyhow, 9 times out of 10, if somebody wants to see about the community building, they're either gonna, I get the call or the knock at the door. If they can't get me, they go to Sue's, can't get Sue, they get you. Anyhow, we don't really need that phone.
Well, that contact number, you could put on our page if that helps. I mean, that's,
That'd
That's
be
some
my
information.
contact,
well, whatever you want to put on it, yeah.
Uh-huh.
in case of an emergency, contact.
Okay, I thought you meant to rent it, that's what I thought you were going
Oh,
after.
well,
That's what it sounded like. Yeah.
they know who to contact.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
And also, shoot, I'm having a son.
Birthday, thank you card.
Yes, we, Betterment Committee really wants to thank the town for their big help, their contributions.
noisy air conditioner.
Hey, I'll tell you, you know,
Feels good though.
yeah, we couldn't have done it without you guys. We split the costs and it was a big help, and it put the Betterment, because, you know, we're a little committee, there's not many people, but anyhow, we're working hard, people's pitching in, helping. So I really appreciate the town. And also, July 19th is our pre-festival party up here at the ballpark. That'll be the night we do the fireworks. There'll be we're gonna sell food from the concession stand. There'll be a few vendors, games for kids, entertainment, fireworks.
It'll all be at the ballpark, huh?
Yes, then. And then, let's see, there was something else. Yes, September 12th and 13th is our festival. On the 12th, anybody likes the boogie, the Monarchs will be here that Friday night.
Okay.
And, yeah, it's gonna be,
Where are you gonna do that at the ballpark as well?
no, it'll be here.
It'll be here, okay.
It'll be here. So, I don't think of anything else. I had all these thoughts in my mind. I'm old and tired.
So we get pencil paper.
Yeah, I should do that. Anyhow, Anita's got the card,
Well, we thank you for the card.
well, we thank the town.
You're welcome.
And the house, the red brick that you was just talking about, I've worked in that building for several years. I could tell you how some things used to be in there, but not now. Anyhow, thank you guys. That's it. I'll be quiet.
Someone's running.
All right, so instead of trying to figure out everybody else's equipment, I went ahead and just invested in 2 sets of equipment that our local people can use in the board meetings or even in a business use. I'm gonna try to develop that also while I'm doing this, because I don't have enough to do. It's a lot simpler to know what the equipment is and be able to fix it over the phone. It was kind of easy to set up. Okay, you weren't traumatized. Did you see the look of panic when you showed me this when you came in the? Yeah. So $15 for a meeting. I'll help you set up a Google Calendar, and a Google Calendar is free and is magic. And actually need to set up one for the town and one for the Betterment Committee. Because tourism can actually have a layered calendar too. And they can have on their website, whatever you put on there feeds out to everywhere. So you have the Edie thing wherever, you can have the directions, the location, and all of that from your phone. Yeah. So all of that, I'm gonna drag you into the whatever century we're in right now. I know you're excited and happy about this, but
You're renting for $15 a meeting. Is that what you
and
said?
today is
Okay.
free. Today is
Okay.
free, even though
All right.
this was absolutely the worst meeting I could ever have picked to be free.
What's she trying to say?
I think, it was
What's she trying
long.
to say?
I
One of us was really windy, huh?
well, no, it was good that this was here, that you had it recorded, because you have legalities that you have to present, and this helps you. And I understand that, okay? And so, but yeah, $15 or $60 if I have to sit here, but she can take care of it. And we'll close it down, and I'll show her how to close it down, but she can do this, and she can panic call me, and I can fix it from my computer at home,
Okay.
all right?
But we just purchased that over there, right, Nita? Okay. Huh?
Yes, a new laptop.
Okay.
It's a nice tripod.
Yard sale.
But-
I got that at a yard sale.
Yard sale.
But yeah, it's up to you whether you want to use it. I thought I'd stop by and told Anita that I was getting equipment. But I mean, I guess, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I mention one more thing real quick? Sorry.
Well, let us finish this discussion.
Oh, sorry, I
first,
thought you
please.
was.
All right.
Yeah.
So we need to decide if it's 15 or we're gonna try to invest in that, right, Nita? Is that what we need to do, or do we just want to make a decision now? What do you want to do? What do you recommend? Which would be simpler for us?
Whatever's simplest for kicker.
Well, I understand. That's why I'm saying. That's why I'm leaning to the $15 a meeting.
Well, right now,
Yeah.
this was pretty easy, and then maybe if she has time or something later on or whatever, she can help me get that one lined out to where.
Okay.
Right. If she has more experience on this, that's another thing too. People are scared of it. I mean, there are a lot of things attached to it. But if she gets to the
Once I
point
get
where
the
she can,
concept of
right.
what's going on, because I'll be all right.
Be good to have an alternate too, in case you happen to be out. I don't know who that would be.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's up to you. I have a lot of other people that are panic calling
Simplicity
me
is
now.
good. It's good. Simplicity is good. What do you think, AJ?
We're gonna use that. I
All
just,
right.
gonna get to that. I just
Okay,
need to
but this for
understand the
now.
concept.
Okay, all right,
For now,
let's do
All
this.
this
Have a motion.
web
Can I make a
stuff.
motion?
I need to make a motion.
Okay, I'll second it, but this is what we're gonna do for now, okay? All right, that's good. Okay, you got anything? Here, okay.
I have a quick question.
Hang on just a second, yes, sir, anything for us?
No, I just had one question.
Okay,
Who does do the maintenance on the, trail?
It's us.
we will own it, yeah,
Uh,
we own our portion of it, the 1 mile segment, that's ours.
Down to, Saltillo?
We don't have the county part, we just have the town part,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, cause, they're gonna have to do something pretty quick down there by Saltillo. The brush is covering the road so much, you can't see the trail until you get right up on it. And if somebody's coming with a bike, it's too late. It's going west, going east isn't bad. Going west, that shrubbery, it comes out to the road.
See, it's,
And it's a huge blind spot.
That'd be the county.
probably can.
Comment to that?
Yes, I comment going east, notice, beyond where the woods is, there's the railing, there's some small holes. Where the ground underneath, I guess is, I don't know, anyway.
Snow settled.
Yes, I would say that, they're probably about maybe 6, 8 inches.
Erosion.
Mine's bigger than that, but there's a hole there. It's just kind of, looks like it's just soaked down.
Sinkhole.
Is that inside of
I
our
would- That would be a good
jurisdiction?
word to use for it, but I don't know what
I haven't
it's
been
all.
that far, I didn't make it that far, I sprayed today here in the town section.
Good.
Killing back on both sides.
Is that in our jurisdiction?
No,
It's outside, okay.
Yeah.
Then I suggest we bring it up to, the county commission.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
You brought it up because I was curious if who was gonna maintain this. Because I just, yeah,
Tom,
I'm
is
just
that
curious.
in the pathway, the settlement, is that occurring in the pathway?
Actually, it is in the surface, it's
Okay.
controlled,
Yeah.
which surprised me. It's up here too, but there's more places down here.
Mhm.
I seen them redoing work in Salem
Did
today from where the water had caused problems. They was up there resurfacing some parts up there today.
Yeah,
Yeah, but see, this was, from what I'm seeing, it had to be really submerged area that's causing that.
I'll try to get down through there on the golf cart possibly to see where that's
But
at.
yeah, if you guys see it in our stretch, that's ours to fix, okay?
hopefully it's just a minor void and there's not anything major.
Anything
going
else?
on.
No,
Okay, coming back to you now.
Oh, okay, I was gonna mention next week is the home front dinner.
Mhm.
The deaf crew is going to be here helping,
The deaf crew.
deaf, yes.
Oh, deaf, okay.
Yes.
She said
I
deaf.
don't know what.
Oh my God.
No, the deaf crew will be here to help.
Right in the house.
There was gonna be several of them, but a few can't be here, so they're asking if
Okay.
some of us can jump in and help with the meal. And then the money, the group that's done Ryder's House,
Mhm.
she's hoping they'll be here and we want to give them the money that's brought in for the home front dinner to help these gentlemen so they can help other people. So I encourage come next Wednesday and eat.
You had something else too,
My
right?
question,
Yeah.
I wonder, the length of time that you have to keep these records, is it 3 months or have you got a longer period?
I think it's 3 months, but what's happening right now is it's being loaded onto Indiana Proud YouTube channel, okay, and Facebook. And I have video up there dating back to 2010. So it's up there. Now, this actually has a function, the service I've got. I can download a transcript, so everything that you read will be on paper. Yay. And, all right.
I'll read it again.
Yeah, and read it again. But, but there's also a copy on the service itself. There's a copy on the machine. And you can always download it. I mean, we can, make it a thing where we just download it after the meeting or when I get the thing back, because next time I'm not going to be here. I will drop it off and I will watch you set it up, but you're just going to be on your own. All right, because, yeah, I've only been doing this 20 years and I'm,
Yeah, over.
I'm over it. You know, but yeah, no, we've read the law, we understand the law, and I want to make sure that you have, by being able to go ahead and get this all together for you, I can get this all together for other groups and other boards, as well as businesses and that kind of thing, because we need to get ourselves promoted, so to speak.
Okay. Sue, do you have anything else? All right, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All right, second. All right, thanks for your attendance.
No unsafe building.
I recommend that we don't have an unsafe building since
We
we've been
just
here
go
a
home.
couple hours.
Yeah, usually when they
Street
get
corner.
going.